Thank you for continuing on this session. As we did last session, we went through workplace health and safety induction. We also did some work on generally on the sound system and how it works. What I'd like to do now is just have a brief walk around the room. Let's go. Come and follow me. Perhaps come around to this microphone to our slide. This is a line microphone. So this is one of our sources. It's plugged in via this. I'll unplug it. It's not powered, so it's actually there's no power to this. It's plugged in by a female XLR, which it's plugged in by a female XLR cable, which plugs direct into that microphone that you saw there. As such, pin 2 hot. So that's the pin that it runs power between pins 2 and 3 if it's on that, but it's actually sending the signal in pin 2 here. Pin 2 is where it all happens, and the other two are effectively balancing the signal so that it doesn't cause interference with other instruments. Okay. I won't plug that in because we know how hot it is, don't we? It's running out quite amount. What else do we have over here in terms of instruments? Come over. We have 3. That's actually channel 1, channel 2, 3, 4. They're all the same, microphone inputs. What else have we got? We have a keyboard. It's got a DI box down here. Can you see that? That's a direct input box. It's actually a passive one, this one's a bit unusual, but most of them are active. So you might be able to see a light on. This is a direct input box. That's powered. So that's running power. It makes the signal more stable when it goes back to the desk. Can you see what all those box dots are on the front? You know what they are?
Are they
attenuators? So attenuation, what does that mean?
stop?
Stop, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. It reduces the signal to the desk. So if something's running really very, very, very high impedance, you control it there. So for instance, someone's running an amplifier into this, often they're running very, very high. Or they've got their own effect units, that might be something you need to do. It's just running too much into the desk. What else do we have? The drum kit, which is run very much the same way. Plugs into a DI box. On there, it's DI boxes over here. Perhaps find your way over here. There's no cables there, I don't think. Good. Good. So this is a dual DI box here. It's also powered. It runs the drum kit and a second guitar line. And that's for the bass guitar, that one over there. So they're the main instrument inputs we have. Have you seen what the other end of the snake is? It's not really the Medusa part, really. It's actually it's kind of like a blockhead part. That's actually the 12 channel. This is what they call a 12 channel snake with 4 auxiliaries coming back. So I'll explain what that is in a minute. We've got all those inputs we've spoken about already, and now it's time to talk through the other parts, which are the speakers. So the speakers are actually connected through. I'll pull one out for demonstration. They're actually running reverse. So they're female as well, because they're sending back signals back into the system here. So it's a bit like, this is kind of this is what I call the planes, where you've got these foldbacks. Now, foldbacks, what do foldbacks do? What do they call them, foldbacks?
For the musicians, so they can hear themselves.
That's right, that's exactly right. And I presume also the other instruments too here, because everything's run electronic really, aren't they? Apart from maybe an acoustic guitar and a singer, that's pretty much the case. So we're going to talk a little bit more about foldbacks later, but this gives you a bit of a feel for what the look and feel. What are these over here on the sides? We've got 2 other things, 2 big things on the stands.
Speakers?
That's right, 2 speakers. They're what we call the front of house speakers. So now we've done our walk around, which I actually meant to do in the previous session. Let's go back to the mixer and talk about the different parts of the mixer. What you'll find is we're able to now refer to the physical components and understand what they're doing on this sound desk. Okay. So I'm extending this metaphor, and I'm sorry if this is a silly metaphor, but it's the best I can come up with at the time. So what I'm suggesting is the beginnings of those gorges, it's coming down from the top of the mountain and forming into gorges, and that's what these channels are here. And you can see this part of the desk here at the top is what I'm calling the inputs from the instruments here. That's the end. That's Medusa's head.
Does it end here?
It ends there at the moment. Just for the input section, I'll explain that. This is actually the planes here. This is the output of the gorges. So if we think about input to gorge, output to gorge, that's the input to the gorge, that's the output of the gorge going into the planes and also going into the streams. Okay, we'll go through each of those sections here. So you can sort of see the block. It makes some sort of sense whether it'll all be ordered in that way. I'm just going to go through, you can see this is an exact replica here of the inputs. I want to go through each component here. Probably pretty obvious that you've seen the female head of the cable up at the microphone on microphone 1, and that's the male end there. And they go into the desk, like so. Whoops, I shouldn't have done that. There's also more inputs here, so a line input. I spoke about the line input before, whereas the mic inputs are balanced signals, so it actually makes sure that there's no interference between channels. You can actually plug direct into here, but we don't normally do that. In fact, there are no line inputs on the desk apart from the little CD player. Insert. You may never have come across this idea. Have you ever come across an insert? Put it this way, you don't really need to use it, but what it can do is you can take a signal out through a processor and send it back in to the desk. It's kind of like I don't know what you call it, a loop. An insert for a loop. And you can do things like put compressor units or echo units or things like that into the channel itself individually. We don't do that here. But in case you're wondering, that's what that channel does. We have this gain control. This is a pretty important one. So the idea is to try and keep signals relative. I mean, normally we don't play around with them too much, but other congregations may play with them from time to time. So if you see them creeping up high, you probably know that they're not quite right. You can see all the microphones that are being used for vocals or for speech are roughly the same, but not so the ones that are here for the wireless ones over here on the desk. They're all quite different, aren't they? In fact, it's hard to see sometimes. Oh, they're relatively similar. But in fact, the wireless systems, there's only 2 operating it, so I think it's these 2 at the moment, are here and here. The Sennheiser's not working at the moment. And what can I say about them? They've got their own volume settings. If you go and scan them, you can see that. What do you notice about the two of these sort of boxes here?
RFA.
Sorry?
RFA.
Well, they are RF signals. What's the difference between the 2?
1 and 2.
That's exactly right. So why would that be important?
Not get confused.
Well, that's perfectly excellent, yeah, because I mean, if you're on a CB radio and you're on channel 40 and someone else is on channel 40 and want to have a private conversation, what happens?
It's not a private conversation.
It's not a private conversation, is it? It's the same thing here. In fact, what it does in this situation is completely confuse the line and nothing works at all. So that's a bit of a... We'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So we've talked about gains and how you control them. That's where you get your most amount of just adjustment. So it's a bit like get the levels to get all the channels working roughly in the same quantum of output, and you can test that actually by pressing these. We'll get to this in a minute. These can help you do that. I'll explain what these do just a minute. It does exactly. Because that is activating this phone. I'll just explain that. What else do we see in this channel? What's this one here? Do you know what this looks like? It actually shows graphically what it's doing. That little button there. And it's actually on for just about everything but drums, keyboard, and the bass. What might that be doing on the computer? What might that be doing, do you think? 100 hertz, it says. What do you hear from C3 next door?
Bass.
Yeah, lots and lots of bass. This actually does the exact opposite. It cuts the bass, and so it's basically a shelf. And we know that most vocalists are never going to get to 100 hertz, which is below what I can sing. So the fundamental frequency of what they're actually singing is never going to hit that. So cut it out. The most important part about sound and making a balance is cutting frequencies rather than increasing them, because it's about creating a pocket for instruments. If you go on to do sound recording, you'll get the gist of that. When you listen to a recording, you hear of your instrument because all the instruments that are not pronounced in a particular frequency have been reduced to create a little pocket for that instrument to sit in. So that is activated most of the time. It doesn't change. These are important, and today we had a bit of an issue over on the speaker there. We had a bit of feedback. This particular high band frequency, 12 kilohertz. If we said that A440, which is that sound, is 440 hertz, what would 12 kilohertz sound like?
Much higher?
Much higher. It's a dog whistle sort of sound. Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
So it's not going to change too much. It's more that part of the sound. So someone here has decided to push this up for channel 2. That's just not really relevant at all. You're not really going to get much of that sound. It's not going to help that fundamental frequency that's getting sung. So most of the time you leave these for most instruments down. A drum kit might use it because the cymbals are quite sibilant, but most instruments won't use it much. This, however, is a bit different. You know what this is?
MF?
Sorry?
MF?
What would MF stand for?
Medium frequency?
Medium frequency or mid frequency, quite true, but it's a bit different from this one. What's this one doing? I should have shown you this, I'm sorry. That's the frequency distribution of the high frequency equalizer. So if you increase it, it follows that pattern. If you decrease it, it follows that pattern. So that is that. It's cut out the 12 kilohertz, and that is that. It's increased to 12 kilohertz, and in proportion to that 12 kilohertz, other signals around it. This one's a bit different though. It's got two equalising parameters. First of it is actually the frequency, and the second one is the decibels are increasing. So can you anyone think about how you might explain what's going on from this graph here? This is the medium frequency graph.
That seems to be demonstrating the waves.
That's right, it's just demonstrating the waves. Why is it showing two waves?
Distortion?
Well, I think what it's trying to do is say that you can sweepable. You can sweep that pattern there across these bands. So if I wanted to drop that frequency, I'd go to 440 on the dial, and I'd actually reduce. I don't want to hear as much A from the singer or an instrument because it's just sticking out too much, and reduce it. Or increase it if I wanted to hear that and drop it out from other instruments. So take that same frequency. I don't want to hear it from you or you or you. I just want to hear this particular instrument here. You can signal things out that way and shift where you want to hear it. One of the issues that does come out from time to time is that tinny voices can sound a bit like that. Reduce the tinny voice by dropping about 1 kilohertz out of the signal. It makes it a softer mix. We might find it on instruments like the wireless, in particular, here we go, the lapel mic. It's set at 1 kilohertz and it drops out about, what's that, about 6 dB, yeah, decibels. Yeah, it's actually the little pouch one. And because it's actually got such a small aperture on the microphone, it sounds like this sometimes. So we've dropped that out to make it sound smaller. Does that make any sense? No, you're right, and the bass signal does essentially what this does. Have you got any questions about those? Can you explain to me again what this one does? Maybe just checking back in on this. What's this mid-frequency equalizer doing? Can you explain that chart to me again? I want to check back in, this is important. What's this top button doing on this chart?
One was the decibels, and the other one was
Yeah, for the frequency.
frequency.
So this, so just to recap, this particular dial here is choosing the horizontally where that wave is occurring, okay?
Yeah.
And the decibel dial is choosing how big the wave is, okay? Does that make more sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So don't be afraid to use it, especially if you think things are, well, that's not really sounding that good. Well, we fix that. And that's at your discretion, okay? Righto, where am I? I've gone the wrong way. Yep. Where are we? The outputs. Okay, we're into this section now. This is the outputs of the gorges when we're going into the planes. All right, this is where you do most of the work for what is going to come out of those front of house speakers. So, moving along, we can see our little channel there. There's not a lot to choose from here, is there? Pan, what's pan mean? Panning the environment if you're sort of looking across. Okay. So we have two speakers and they are actually plugged in here. So there is a left and right. So if you wanted one singer to sing out of the left speaker and one singer to sing out of the right speaker, let's talk about those two. What would you do with pan? Oh, you can turn it right now if you like. Show me. Yep, yeah, that'll do. Yep, right, how far?
If it's like all the way on.
Yeah, all the way on, that's it. Don't be afraid. And what do you do this one?
You turn it on.
This one there, sorry.
This one.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can do that. You can. So I want a guitar to appear there and a piano to appear there, just so it gives a little bit of spatial feel. It does actually help the mix a little bit. It's cheating.
So it's basically how you make, like, that's kind of how you make something stereo.
That's
essentially.
exactly right. You've got the option. Let's use it. Okay.
So you make instruments that are kind of on that side, sort of favouring them coming out of the right speaker.
You can do that. Yeah.
Versus the, yeah, okay.
It might sound nicer to you. Oh, well, we're not exactly centre here, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, you can. It gives a feel for the room anyway. Probably less useful in this environment. This one's important. The mute button. What does that do? Yeah. Does someone want to go down the front and plug in that microphone again? On the front desk. Yeah, on the lectern. You see where the 3 pins are on the microphone. That's it. There's a little knob if you. Yep, perfect. Beaut. So, do you want to speak into that now?
Hello, hello, testing.
Sounds
Am
good.
I going to get muted soon?
Now, who's going to mute her?
I'm just going to keep talking until I can.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Now you're off. Now we can do some other things with this. Keep talking. Turn up the vocal fold back. Yep. Keep going. Oh, it's been turned off. I'll go and fix that one up. Just give me a minute. Go again. Oh yeah, this is exactly what the story is. See, we've got it. It's supposed to be going through the vocal foldback. Why wouldn't it be going through the vocal foldback?
It's not connected to the vocal.
Yes, it is.
It is. Oh, it's on mute.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So turn mute off. Sorry if we can.
Sorry.
So that's actually not coming through the front of house at the moment. It's just coming through the foldback. Come back, Lucy. Thanks for that. And I'll just recap for your benefit what that was. These two foldback lines are what they call pre-fader. Okay, so they're not dependent on this. Actually, no, that's not the way. Anyway, let's keep going. My point here is that these are not dependent on this, whereas these two are dependent on this. These two lines actually run to this Sennheiser unit, which is a Bluetooth speaker. So if they want the sermon in the kids' room, they can have it in the kids' room. We don't tend to use it much anymore, but just for reference, that's what's powering this. There's no point playing with that too much. These are the two we're using. One's going to the vocal fallbacks, and you'll remember they're sitting where?
Behind the little
Oh, no, the vocal fallback's actually sitting
behind the amp.
in front of the singers. So just on the floor there. And the instrument fallbacks, one's sitting next to the drum kit and one's sitting sort of behind the piano. You can see that big box.
Is that the fallback?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've got two sets of them. Got one's near the singers, that's that one there, and one's next to the instruments. But anyway, let's not keep going on that point, because the main point is the fallbacks are these two fallbacks are independent from there. So if Placida, you can go up there now. You can speak. Nothing coming through the front of house. Yep, just speak into it. Okay. You can probably hear nothing going on there.
Testing, testing.
And you can turn the channel off. Keep going.
Hello.
So this is the same as me.
Testing.
Doesn't mute anything through the foldbacks. But if I turn the foldback off and get it going through, keep speaking.
Testing. Oh, it's very
Whoops,
loud.
keep going.
Testing.
If I do
1, 2,
that,
3, testing.
that affects that channel. Okay. So that is the main way out to, well, I guess the main way from the mountains down, if you know what I mean. It's going to end up going through the mouth here, the streams. Come back, mate. Good. Anything else to look at here? These buttons here are called pre-fader listening. Okay, so independent of what's happening on these channels, sorry, these sliders here, it's sending the signal, that signal, that signal, that signal through the headphones. Okay, and you can,
You can pre.
okay, you
Pre-check
can.
it.
That's
Sometimes I do that if there's like a weird sound and I'm trying to work out which channel is coming through.
spot on. That's a great idea.
And also when it's like I can't remember which one is up the front, I can kind of do that and see which one is actually making it go up and down.
Yeah, and you can do that independent of anything going on in the listening environment. I think it's really good.
So it's called pre-fader.
Listening. That's exactly right. And one of the tests of have you got all the channels balanced reasonably well before you do all this other stuff is by turning the pre-fader listening and going, I can't hear that instrument. I might need to turn it up a bit here rather than here. Okay?
So is it always favourable to
Yeah,
work in
get them
the
balanced
inputs?
here.
Right, get the inputs right.
If I had time, I would always before a service turn everything off from the front of house and listen to it through here. And then, I'll explain, just use the foldbacks. Don't let the musicians tell you they want to hear it out the front of house. It's not their call, that's your call. They won't be able to hear it properly, but you will. All right, we're on the planes now. It's a little bit artificial, sorry about this. We've been talking about these two vocal foldbacks, and then it's no surprise that these are what's going out to the foldbacks on the ground, the foldbacks on the sort of stage here. What is probably worth noting is that the musicians are going to often ask you, could I have some more foldback on the guitar? And the key rule is look horizontally. Where's the guitar channel? The guitar channel is here. And then pick whether it goes to the vocal foldback. So for instance, Jazz was at the front this morning. She might want to hear the guitar and the vocal foldback, and that's okay. And not an instrumental foldback.
So she knows how she's going.
That's exactly right. So think horizontal. I need more foldback of X in Y foldback. X, Y.
And so we've got two of these. One's kind of closer. They're both sort of in front of the two music, like
The two music stands,
Yeah.
that's actually vocal, and the other two are instrument. There's two lines going in there. All right, what else we got? The auxiliary outputs. I've just explained what's going on with those phones for the pre-fader listening, but you can also use them to test what's going on in auxiliary 1 and 2 if you want to. It's probably not really that useful, but you can if you wanted to go, hang on, what's going through those foldbacks? I want to hear them completely. We'll do that.
So you're getting a taste for what they're listening to.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So if somebody keeps saying, "Oh, can you turn me up? I can't hear myself."
You can get a rough idea of what's going on auxiliary 2. Yeah. There's masters for auxiliary 1 and 2 as well. The African congregation often they pump these pretty high. Well, but anyway, these are overall how much signal is going back in. A little bit like what these things are doing on the channels, but it's doing it for all of auxiliary 1, microphone, all of auxiliary 2, instrument 5. Okay. And I've explained all that already. Good. And the mouth is pretty simple. I've just shown you there's those two outputs to the front of house speakers, and this is what controls them. What I find is if you get most of this right, you get that right. Bear in mind that what the instruments here doesn't have to affect what you do here. So what's really important here is that you reinforce the sound that is on the stage. It's called a sound reinforcement system. It's not able to have every single sound the way you'd have it in a headphone. It's just not capable because the room is just not suitable for it. So this is a sound reinforcement system which just says the sounds that I can't hear well enough, I'm going to pump up here. Okay, that's the key thing. So when people try and pump up all the drums and stuff, well, you know, that's just going to be a mess. It's just going to make everything fun.
So you'd always favour the vocals above instruments.
Spot on, spot on. All right, before we go further, I just want to talk about basic setup and shutdown procedures, and I think I'm running a little bit over time. Sorry about this. We might do it in reverse, actually. The two speakers that are probably going to cause problems are these ones. So they pop when you turn them off. Or if you turn the power off at the wall, they'll pop. And I don't like that because it can actually cause damage to the speaker. So I'll do the turning off procedure first. In fact, someone can do this for us. Find the off switch for that. Yep, cool.
Turn it off.
That's it. And someone wants to you turn it around so you can see it. That's it. Beg your pardon there. And they're both two different speakers, unfortunately, but if you go around the back of that Naomi, and it's on the right, little button. That's it, turn that off. And what we also do here is, for the benefit of all the video, we just check whether the video people have finished with the computer. And then we use the power. Then we turn off, and they're all located right there. So, who wants to turn it all off? That's it. We'll probably turn off the power back. And turning it on is kind of the reverse. Turn it on with the switch, and then the speakers. Don't have to do it right now. The idea is turn on the switch, turn on the speakers, and then plug the instruments in while the desk's all at 0 volume. In fact, the best thing to do is have the desk completely muted while you've got the instruments. This is a complex diagram, but I want to explain one key principle here. There's two sides of this. This side is the setting up the instruments. This side is the setting up the mix. Mute the channel, plug in the instrument to the direct input box sometimes, or if it's a microphone, without it. Then we unmute. Sorry, that means unmute. And then we play with the planes, so those auxiliaries, into the auxiliary masters, and then out to those speakers, the fallback speakers, vocal fallbacks.
Where does that logo up?
So these are the vocal folds, so it's all happening, all there, the mutes are here, out to that. I haven't spoken about this part yet, that's called the mix. Get that right before you, maybe, and only when the musicians stop playing, then worry about the rest. So what you're gonna find is this microphone needs to be checked independently. Like this morning, we didn't have the sound. We had to check what switch was on. We had some foldback issues this morning, and that's possibly because this speaker was pointing like that. You'll notice that this is a wide sound distribution speaker, and if it's pointing like that, it's picking up this microphone here. Talk a little bit about problem. So what is suitable is to actually have that roughly pointing at 90 degrees to that. It's a wide distribution, so you don't have to worry about the fact, oh, it's not pointing at me. It doesn't matter. It's okay. These systems are designed to have a wide spread. Any question about that? It's a little bit complex, isn't it? But there's two key parts. What are they? Rehearsal mode and performance mode. So what do we have here?
Rehearsal mode, performance mode.
That's right. What do we do first?
Rehearsal mode.
Totally. And then performance mode. And don't let the musicians get in the way, eh? I've already explained this one. This is a classic foldback problem. But the idea is, can I have some more guitar in the vocal foldback? Look horizontally. Where's the guitar channel? And then think, is it in the vocal foldback or in the instrument foldback? Think further. We're going to have break for a tick. We're going to do some practicing of setting up instruments if that's cool. So just stop the video now.